tonight's news edition. His Majesty the King calls for closer cooperation among Islamic countries and building bridges with world cultures and civilizations. The Jordan Atomic Energy Commission chairman says the commission is in the final phases of signing an agreement with a Russian company to build the kingdom's nuclear reactor. And hundreds of Syrian rebels are evacuated from the besieged city of Hims under a deal with the government. Good evening and welcome to the news at 10. A royal decree summoned Parliament to meet in an extraordinary session on June the 1st to pass a legislation package including the draft political parties, income tax and investment laws. Also on the agenda are the judicial administration and independence of the judiciary, the non-Muslim religious denomination councils, the amended civil retirement draft, the amended renewable energy and energy conservation bill, and the public-private sector partnership draft. The Parliament will also debate the Deputy's Code of Conduct draft and amended Bar Associations bill, the draft juvenile law, and an amended Jordan Al-Amal Center Cancer Foundation law. His Majesty the King welcomed new Organization of Islamic Cooperation OIC Secretary General Iyad Madani and wished him success after his election as head of the Pan-Islamic Organization. During the meeting at Husseiniya Palace, King Abdullah praised the OIC's role to enhance solidarity among Muslim countries, defend pan-Islamic issues, and address challenges facing the Muslim world. The King stressed support for initiatives to strengthen ties among Islamic countries, foster dialogue with the various cultures and civilizations, and build bridges with them. Madani said the Islamic organization is committed to forging ahead with the fundamental task of bolstering cooperation among member states. The new OIC chief commended King Abdullah's endeavor to highlight Islamic teachings and the faith's core values of tolerance. He also noted Jordan's relentless efforts as custodian of Islamic and Christian holy sites in the occupied city of Jerusalem and the King's request to achieve security and stability in the region and the Muslim world. He said Jordan's comprehensive reform drive and moderation had made the country a regional model. Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour pledged support for the Independent Elections Commission in its role to organize and oversee any elections in the kingdom. He spoke during a visit to the commission to congratulate its new head, Riyad Shak'a, and board of commissioners who were appointed by royal decree. Mansour underlined the importance of building on the commission's achievements to ensure fair and transparent elections. The transparency and fairness of any electoral process, he said, starts with the commission, underlining the electoral body's independence and the need to maintain its integrity and transparency. He urged the commission to maximize achievements, learn from previous experiences, and address any administrative loopholes to boost the national reform process. The Prime Minister said he wanted to entrench integrity as a lifestyle in any polls. Government spokesperson Mohammed Momani said Jordan is still in the study phase of establishing the kingdom's nuclear reactor. Momani said the civilian atomic reactor is a strategic option for the energy-poor country, stressing that Jordan is ready to utilize nuclear energy and export it in the future. Jordan Atomic Energy Commission Chairman Khalid Tuqan said the commission is in the final phases of signing an agreement with the selected Russian company to build the reactor. He spoke at a press conference during a visit to the Jordan University of Science and Technology's Nuclear Engineering Department.
The basic goal of this facility, the Jordanian nuclear reactor, is to open the way for both nuclear engineers and students of the Nuclear Engineering Department at the Jordan University of Science and Technology to undergo direct practical training. So it aims to utilize the laboratories and advanced and modern nuclear installations for real practical training, so that theoretical education is linked with field practice and training via this nuclear facility. As far as the Jordanian nuclear energy station is concerned, we are in the final phases of negotiation with the Russian side. Negotiations are underway to reach an agreement between the Jordanian and Russian governments. So, we are in the final stages of a comprehensive deal.
The Special Operations Forces exhibition Suffix 2014, which was opened yesterday by His Majesty the King, is a key opportunity for major firms to sign defense industry deals. The King Abdullah II Design and Development Bureau Investment Group and Paramount Group of South Africa announced a strategic joint venture that will see the production of proven defense technologies in Jordan. Known as Arabian Defense Industries, the joint venture will combine the capabilities of both groups to offer a wide range of technologies to the Middle East, the world's largest defense market. The new entity will strengthen industrialization across the Middle East and be able to respond to customers by providing solutions to their requirements.
Defense Industries is a new joint venture Jordanian company formed between KB Investment Group and Paramount Group of South Africa. The intention behind Arabian Defense Industries is to create a new powerhouse of defense industrialization aimed at the Middle East and North Africa. The product range that Arabian Defense Industries will market will be products from both the Paramount stable as well as the CADB stable, with specific focus being on land systems and aerospace solutions. The land systems products will include Paramount's world-famous Marauder product, the Mbombe product, as well as CADB's Stallion and 8x8 products, amongst others. On the aerospace industry, we will focus on Mi-24 and Mi-17 upgrade systems, Hawk and Mirage upgrades, as well as Paramount's unique RLAC product.
An official Jordanian armed forces source said border guards engaged with a group of people trying to infiltrate the northern frontier from Syria. It said 2 of the infiltrators were injured and were rushed to a nearby field clinic while the others fled the scene. Border guards also rushed to Jordanian hospitals 8 Syrian nationals suffering shrapnel injuries in Syria. Over the past 48 hours, 1,154 Syrian refugees crossed into the kingdom and were sent to refugee camps. Syrian rebels started their withdrawal from the heart of the besieged city of Hims. The evacuation was agreed upon between rebels and government forces and was foreseen by the United Nations. It will be carefully synchronized with aid deliveries into the city and the release of some rebel-held captives in 2 northern Shiite towns. This report has more.
Buses finally make it to the old city of Hims. Syrian rebels were evacuated from the heart of Hims, dubbed the capital of the revolution, when protests erupted against the regime of President Bashar al-Assad more than 3 years ago. The evacuation, part of a deal with the government, marked the end of rebel presence in Hims. 2 convoys of buses made their way through the ruins of Hims, taking the fighters to safety in rebel-held areas outside the city. The rebels of the Free Army have held out in the Old City district and several other areas despite being undersupplied, outgunned and subjected to more than a year of siege. A total of 1,200 fighters were expected to leave Hims in stages. At the same time, dozens of captives held by rebels in the northern provinces of Aleppo and Latakia were also freed as part of the same deal. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said rebels opened roads to allow aid into 2 other towns, Nubul and Zahra. Provincial Governor Talal Barazi was quoted by the state news agency as saying today's operation would clear Hims of gunmen and weapons and would be applied across the whole of Hims city, as well as their stronghold in the old city neighborhoods. Rebels also still have a presence in the Wa'er suburb on the city's northeastern outskirts. The evacuation of rebels would hand President Assad a symbolic victory weeks before his likely re-election. Hiba Al-Atoum for the News at 10.
Lebanese lawmakers failed for a 3rd time to choose a president, raising fears the seat will remain vacant for months. President Michel Sleiman's term expires in less than 3 weeks. Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri called a new session on May 15, but politicians said they expected disagreements over replacement could drag on after Suleiman leaves office on May 25th. Any candidate would likely have to garner some support from the two main political blocs, Hezbollah's March 8 alliance and the rival March 14 coalition, to win the necessary majority for Parliament's 128 deputies. But tensions worsened by the increasingly sectarian war in neighboring Syria have hardened the stalemate between the two sides.
There was no quorum and the country needs an agreement to achieve presidential elections. A challenging president reaches no result and no party can impose on the other party a name or a candidate. So we can't elect a name proposing a challenge on the Lebanese scene. We are much in need of agreeing as parties, parliament blocs, to lead Lebanon out of this crisis and have a president.
U.S. National Security Advisor Susan Rice began a two-day visit to Israel for talks expected to be dominated by the West's nuclear talks with Iran. The White House said Rice's visit comes as peace talks between Israel and the Palestinians have collapsed. White House spokesman Jay Carney said negotiations with Iran over its nuclear program will be on the agenda, among other topics. Israel insists Iran be denied uranium enrichment capabilities under a potentially imminent nuclear deal. The demand risks triggering a new U.S.-Israeli rift. President Vladimir Putin said Russia has withdrawn its forces from its border with Ukraine, where NATO has said there were about 40,000 Russian troops in recent weeks. Putin also called on separatists in eastern Ukraine to postpone a referendum on independence, while promising Russia will take a positive approach in peace efforts. This report has the details.
Tension ratcheted up between Russia on one side and Ukraine and its allies in the West on the other. Russian President Vladimir Putin said Ukraine's upcoming presidential election is a step in the right direction. But he said the vote on May 25th would decide nothing unless the rights of all citizens were protected. Putin also urged pro-Russian activists in southeastern Ukraine to call off a series of independence referendums planned for this weekend. He also said troops close to the Ukraine border had returned to their training areas.
I want to underline that the planned presidential elections in Kiev are a move in the right direction, but they won't solve anything if all of the citizens of Ukraine don't understand how their rights will be guaranteed after these elections are held.
British Foreign Minister urged Moscow to back the Ukrainian poll. He said Russia had made no effort to implement an agreement in Geneva last month to defuse the crisis. The sides are trying to agree a second international conference.
To make a meeting worthwhile, what it would really require is two things in particular. One, a complete acceptance that Ukraine is entitled to have elections on the 25th of May, and that those should go ahead without external disruption. And second, we need a commitment from all involved in such a meeting to join in implementing the outcome. The problem last time, as I described earlier in my remarks, is that Russia did not take one single step to implement what was agreed at Geneva.
The European Union and Japan also called on Russia to avoid worsening the crisis in Ukraine, with Brussels threatening further sanctions.
We call on Russia to refrain from any steps to further destabilize Ukraine and instead to engage in a diplomatic resolution of the crisis. The European Union is grateful for Japan's solidarity and its political and financial support to Ukraine, and we will continue to coordinate our positions, including as regards sanctions, within the Group of Seven. Further steps in destabilizing Ukraine will call for additional sanctions.
Moscow says it will protect the rights of the largely Russian-speaking people in the south and east against what it calls an undemocratic government in Kiev. Kiev has rejected demands by pro-Russian activists for greater autonomy, fearing it could lead to the breakup of the country. Residents in the rebel stronghold of Slavyansk said they were tired of the conflict as Ukraine slides further towards war. The past few days have seen government forces press on with an offensive but make little progress in the east, where separatist rebels have so far held firm at their main outpost in the town of Slavyansk. Farah Ajluni for the news at 10.
Thailand's caretaker cabinet appointed the deputy premier and commerce minister as new caretaker prime minister. The step came after a court verdict removed Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra. Shinawatra was accused of violating the constitution by giving an unlawful order, an allegation she denied. The decision is bound to anger supporters of Shinawatra, but the court did allow ministers not implicated in the case against her to stay in office. The caretaker government's responsibility now is to organize an election as soon as possible. We start with NBA action. The Washington Wizards showed no sign of wilting in the heat of the playoffs as they beat the top-seeded Indiana Pacers 102-96 in their Eastern Conference second-round series opener. Bradley Beal scored a team-high 25 points. Trevor Ariza made all 6 of his three-pointers attempts for 22, and the Wizards drew first blood on the road in the best-of-7 series. The Pacers needed the full 7 games to survive and advance against 8th-seed Atlanta in the opening round.
But it looks like it's just window dressing right now. Wall dribbles out the clock. The Wizards open the series with a
We stay with the NBA. Kevin Durant of the Oklahoma City Thunder was named as the National Basketball Association's most valuable player for the 2013-2014 season. Durant won the MVP award for the first time in his 7-year career after receiving 119 first-place votes from a total of 124 cast by sports writers and broadcasters in North America, plus one special fan vote. During the regular season, 5-time All-Star Durant averaged a career-best 32 points per game to go with 7.4 rebounds and 5.5 assists, also a career high. Spain's David Ferrer beat compatriot Albert Ramos 7-6, 5-7, 6-3 at the Madrid Open Masters in nearly 3 hours. Ferrer, ranked 5th in the world, had 12 break points, but only converted 5 of them. Ramos, ranked 115th, has never beaten his compatriot, who had a bye in the first round. And finally, unstable weather will continue to affect the country tonight. Therefore, it will be partly cloudy to cloudy, accompanied by thundery showers and hail, with southeasterly winds blowing dust in the Badia Desert region. Tomorrow, a drop in temperature is expected with a chance for rain and hail. Winds will be southeasterly moderate, picking up at times and turning dusty. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect partly cloudy skies and a chance for scattered thundery showers, northerly moderate to brisk winds and choppy seas. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. To end the news, here's a reminder of our top stories. His Majesty the King calls for closer cooperation among Islamic countries and building bridges with world cultures and civilizations. The Jordan Atomic Energy Commission chairman says the commission is in the final phases of signing an agreement with a Russian company to build the kingdom's nuclear reactor. And hundreds of Syrian rebels are evacuated from the besieged city of Hims under a deal with the government. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news. I'm Lanza Khair. Thank you for watching and have a good night.